within their apartment, they had all kinds of firearms that a regular old citizen should not have, and several other types of military-grade gear.
History is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. How long could I get away with faking to be a U.S. federal agent? Why go through all those background checks, all those training sessions, all that lost time? You know, you got stuff to do. There's so much great TV out. Why can't you just fake being a federal agent and then watch the rest of Severance? It's a question someone tried to answer.
That's right. And the answer is about 2 years. Maybe a little over 2 years. So let's go to The Guardian. Fake U.S. federal agent claimed ties to Pakistani intelligence, prosecutors say. This is the main article I'm going to be reading from today, and then there's 2 or 3 others. This one is going to give you the facts. 2 men were arrested, Aryan Taherzadeh and Haider Ali. These 2 men were, as Ben said, impersonating federal agents, in this case, special agents within the Department of Homeland Security. And, you're not supposed to do that. I hope everybody's aware. You're not supposed to impersonate agents or police officers or any law enforcement whatsoever at any level if you are not, in fact, an agent or officer with enforceable powers.
I would say that could get you in some hot water in certain situations. I mean, it's a form of fraud, right?
It is. It has certainly gotten these guys in trouble, and it also depends on what you do with that fake power that you're wielding. And in this case, these guys are in trouble for several things. So not only were these 2 guys pretending to be agents, right? They were also doing weird stuff like providing favors for actual people in law enforcement. In this case, the Secret Service. It's very strange. It's very, very strange. They provided, quote, lucrative favors to members of the Secret Service, including one agent on the security detail of First Lady Jill Biden. So these guys managed to pretend and get very, very close to actual power within the United States. Rather troubling, I think, just on the surface, just knowing that that's what occurred, right, with these 2 guys. But it doesn't end there. They weren't just pretending to be federal agents and hanging out with Secret Service agents. They were doing things like getting those Secret Service agents free rent at their apartment complex where they also lived. There were 4 of them. And these are not cheap apartments. These apartments cost around $48,000 yearly. Calculate, oh my gosh. Those are nice apartments. These guys were apparently, there's several unnamed favors that are in here, apparently within the affidavit. I'm going to read from a CNBC article here, and we'll talk about it in a second. But it says, on the affidavit for these 2 guys, it was as early as February 2020. They were pretending to be these DHS agents. They were also carrying insignias and firearms, like legit firearms that an agent would truly carry as part of that deception.
Glocks, yeah.
So they weren't just like, exactly. They weren't just telling people and introducing themselves as agents, right? They're wearing the thing that's supposed to let you know that they're real and carrying the actual firearm that an agent would have. That's freaky to me. That's feels like deep cover.
It does. It's also interesting, just on this note, that we're establishing something that makes them look a little bit different in comparison to your typical fraudster for attention, like the kid who was faking being a doctor a few years back. He just really wanted to pretend to be a doctor. But these folks, they would look legit. They could talk the talk. Though, like a Glock 19, a 6R 229, those are firearms you would expect an agent to have, and just the sheer amount of money that they were moving, it sounds like they had some support of something, and I think we'll get to that in a second, right?
Oh yeah. Well, as the title of the article stated from The Guardian, one of these guys, Ali, the man with the last name Ali, he claims to have some kind of ISI connection. That's the Pakistani intelligence service, or for the country Pakistan. And if it's actually, I mean, who knows if that's really what it is? I guess we'll find out as these guys are, charged and they maybe go to trial, or how this thing turns out. Because it doesn't seem like they had diplomatic immunity, because if they did, I don't think we would be this far, right? We wouldn't have a ton of stories going out about all of this with all the details.
It would just be not. I think that stuff would be redacted or held back in some way.
It would just be put to bed. It does feel more like spycraft, or what do we call it, Ben?
Tradecraft.
Tradecraft. There we go.
Is that the kinder, gentler way of talking about it? The more innocuous. Yeah.
It is. But there's other weird stuff with this story that doesn't make sense to me, you guys. Both of these dudes tried to become special police officers. One attempted in 2019, but had some misdemeanor conviction dealing with domestic violence, so he was ineligible. The same guy, Taherzada, was able to obtain a commission, this is from the article, as a, quote, unarmed SPO, but he never, went all the way through the process. He didn't send some documents over, so they, took it off the table in 2021, right at the end of the year. And the other person attempted to become an SPO in 2020, Ali, but was denied, quote, based on his prior arrest for an assault of a family member. And, there's also some abduction by force going on there. Interesting stuff. Here's the deal, though. This is kind of where I want to end with this. We said that these guys were living in an apartment complex. We didn't mention yet some of the favors they were doing were giving firearms and other military equipment to the Secret Service agents, or at least that's what they're accused of doing. Within their apartment, they had all kinds of firearms that a regular old citizen should not have, and several other types of military-grade gear. Stuff like a kit to be able to break into a home or a residence, the kind of thing where you would actually break into a home rather than just unlocking it and stuff.
What's the difference? You talking about a lockpicking,
like a breach
versus
lockpick versus a ramrod?
What is that? A ramrod, or just a more specialized crowbar, essentially, right?
Yeah, I don't know the correct term, but it's like a breach kit or something like that, where it's what you would use to enter a home.
It's one of those little mini battering rams they use, so they can a single person can operate. Yeah.
Yep. They also had body armor, all kinds of tactical gear, and surveillance equipment. Lots of surveillance equipment. And so you imagine these two guys, they're pretending to be who they are. They've got surveillance equipment, all these weapons. They're paying, or at least they've acquired rent, very expensive rent, for 4 Secret Service agents. And also, according to a statement from Taherzada, Ali had, quote, obtained the electronic access codes and a list of all the tenants in the apartment complex, which has hundreds of units, by the way. And these access codes allow tenants to enter their apartments and the amenity areas and operate elevators in the complex. That's according to NBC New York. And that means these guys could have gone into any one of the apartment complexes in that building if they wanted to. And maybe they did. Who knows?
Yeah, it gets shadier and shadier, because I saw that so they were claiming to be DHS, and they very obviously were not. I saw that U.S. Special Police is not a law enforcement agency, and the landlord of this apartment complex, the Crossings, I think, just won in court a judgment for more than $222,000 for unpaid rent. They were pulling a scam in five apartments, including the ones they loaned out to Secret Service agents. They also, Ali at least appears, according to his former friends, to have a track record of being a failed con artist in Missouri. This is interesting because they were able to do a lot of what's called social engineering. hacking through charisma and sending out the right appearance and signals and using the correct nomenclature, which really isn't that hard. You know, it's like we had talked about in a previous episode, one super easy way to get into various venues is to just put on an orange vest and walk around with a clipboard. People think you're doing something. I can't officially tell you that works.
Oh,
but
yeah.
that's like they're doing they're doing a more sophisticated version of that. But Matt, we have to ask, is there any, at this point, is there any kind of indication of what their end game may have been?
That's the big question here. Why? They were driving around in a giant black GMC SUV. They had the insignia, the guns. They met all these people. They're doing all the social engineering. Why? They were at least 1 degree away from the White House. Like, what? Why are they doing this? Is it just keeping tabs?
Domestic terrorism? Is there some sort of larger nefarious end game? Sure is a lot of effort with not a lot of evidence of a goal.
Well, what's the game, right?
That's what
It's
I mean.
not monetary. It's not monetary. They're expending a ton of money. According to statements from Taherzada, Ali, the other guy who was younger than Taherzada by about 5 years, was bankrolling the whole operation. And like, what?
Play for access?
Why?
That's what it sounds like.
You don't think it's just for kicks? An
I think it's a
expensive
play
experiment?
for access. I think the attempt was to sort of insert themselves into privileged circles in the world of intelligence and security, and then maybe they were working on spec. You know, maybe the plan was to later say, we are ISI, we are embedded with the upper echelons of federal security and in the executive branch. Let's see if we can work together. You know what I mean? That's a real go-getter attitude.